You ready? Missy Lane? Well, good evening. Today is November 2nd? No, December 7th. It says on my note. Go ahead, play with my mind.
Time flies.
December 7th, the Conservation Commission meeting. In accordance with MGL.
Recording in progress.
Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will meet on Wednesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. in this room. And additionally, the public access to this meeting shall be done via Zoom, online video conferencing, along with being in person. And this application will allow users to view the meeting and provide comments during allocated windows. To join the web link or call the dial-in number listed below under the start time and call to order, and be advised this meeting is audio and video recorded for future broadcast by Norfolk Community Television. With that being said, welcome. And the first item we have, public hearing, is 358 Main Street, notice of intent. And that hearing has been open, so all we have to do is continue it, or talk about it, it should be. DEP came back with a file number, correct?
They did.
And with comments. Would you like to expand on that?
So I believe
Caitlin?
Rick from United Consultants is
Yes.
here. Rick, would you like to provide a presentation of the project?
Yes, Caitlin, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, Rick. Welcome.
All right. Well, thank you. I do apologize. I am in the process of moving my daughter home from North Carolina. And with the power outage situation down here, with the vandalism of the substations, our plans have been messed up. So I'm actually currently sitting in the Raleigh-Durham Airport. So I apologize for the background noise. But hopefully we can get through this. So, again, thank you. So, as Caitlin had mentioned, on behalf of the owners of the property, the estate of Judith Longobardi, Nancy Longobardi is now currently the surviving trustee of the estate. They are the property owners of, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, something just happened here. They are the property owners of the property at 358 Main Street in Norfolk. The property has been owned by the Longobardi family for over 50 years. Property has been used as a horse farm by the Longobardi family for that period of time. This application came about, and as the commission may know, that there was a transfer of some property, and that prompted the Longobardis, who had sold some property to the Camja Chemical Corporation, to then construct a new house and a new barn on the property. And what happened was, since that work had taken place, Caitlin got involved, and we had worked with Caitlin for some time to address concerns that were raised. And it was decided that the best course of action would be to file a notice of intent. We had site visits with Caitlin and the Longobardis, and we determined that there were 3 areas in question. And we've prepared a site plan that is part of this notice of intent application. And that site plan depicts 3 areas where work was done within jurisdictional areas. The first area is labeled Area 1. It's
Wait
to
a
the
minute,
west.
Rick, hold on. Do you have
Yep.
that
Yeah, do you want to pull that out?
file? We'll bring it up so
And
we can take a look at it while you're talking.
Yeah, I do apologize. I'm not able to access the Wi-Fi, so I had to utilize my phone, and now I'm not able to request a screen share.
Yeah, that's all right. We should be able to handle it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have they figured out what the problem was with those substations, or who did it?
Well, obviously, it's vandalism. The FBI's all over the place down here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of chatter about different things, but really nothing's been revealed as to what they think the cause is.
Motive. Okay, we've got the map up. Can you blow that up a little bit, please? Okay, so I see a couple of areas. Go ahead.
So there's Area 1, which is located behind Camden Chemical to the west of the existing
Top left.
house. And that area had some tree clearing that took place. Which a portion of the area outside of the jurisdiction of the wetlands was utilized by the Camden people during the construction process, I'm told. And that area currently is being utilized as a horse paddock area. Fencing was installed, and so what we had done was identified all of the various wetland resource areas, which included a bordering vegetated wetland, which was delineated by AES Environmental. We have a riverfront area where we have a bordering land subject to flooding in that area. And then we have the appropriate buffer zones and riverfront areas for those wetland resource areas. I understand there's a lot of line work, but what we also had done was quantified the disturbances of all the various resource areas on the right-hand side of the plan. So what we had determined was there was approximately 5,246 square feet of riverfront area, 8,190 square feet of buffer zone to the BVW, and 20,277 square feet of buffer zone impacts to the bordering land subject to flooding under the local bylaw jurisdiction. Having talked to the property owner, that area had historically been used by the family as horse paddocks in the past for grazing. And they've basically just revitalized those areas after the construction was done, and materials and whatnot were stockpiled in that area. And now they've just installed a fence to prevent the animals from getting further into the wetland resource areas and then down into the river, and basically to keep them in a pen, if you will. So Area 2 is located just to the east of the house, and basically an access way was created to access the basement of the house. Some excavation took place, some field stone retaining walls were installed. The walkway was placed between the walls to provide for access, and then the area was loomed and seeded. And again, we've quantified the disturbances for that, which are basically just a riverfront area disturbance of 1,425 square feet. And the third area is located to the southeast of the existing house, closer to Main Street. And that area is within the existing horse track. And in essence, what took place in that area was the installation of some fencing to, again, contain the animals and create some paddocks. There's a few different paddocks in that area. As you can see, there's cross fences running from side to side of the long sides of the track. And then basically the entirety of the track, inside of the track, is encompassed with a white vinyl stockade, post and rail type fence. And again, we've identified the disturbance areas for that, which were actually quite small, because what we had done was just calculated out the fence post disturbances for the installation of the fence posts. And those were riverfront area of 83 square feet, isolated vegetated wetland of 33 square feet, and a 100-foot buffer zone to the IVW of 717 square feet. So we've also quantified the entirety of the riverfront area on the site, which is just under 500,000 square feet. And we've determined that the alteration of the riverfront area was about 6,754 square feet, or 1.35% of the total riverfront area on the property. And we have the ability to request for an alteration of 10% of the total riverfront area on the site. So we're well below that. So that's basically an outline of what's taken place. There were some additional comments that were provided by DEP, and again, we've had pleasure to work with Caitlin to try and rectify those. We filed a additional document on, bear with me here, on November 28th, we prepared a document that basically, we believe, addressed the additional comments that were brought to our attention from both Caitlin and DEP. We can certainly go through that if the board or the commission has any specific questions.
That's the revised form?
That's the revised form.
Okay.
And just to summarize that, the department had requested some additional information, such as, the percentage in square footage of the riverfront area, and then confirmation of the performance standards for, excuse me, work within a previously developed riverfront area and also a non-previously disturbed riverfront area, such as they refer to as redevelopment regulations. And then Caitlin had asked us to comment on the manure management plan that the applicant had in place. So we provided a write-up on that as well. So that's just a summary of what that document provides for. I think that's an overview of the project, what's occurred, what we've done to rectify that. We'd be happy to answer any questions that the chair or the commission members may have.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, you're welcome. Caitlin, do you want to add to it?
I'd just like to thank Rick for that summary of the project. After reviewing all the materials that were submitted, particularly the supplemental materials on November 28th, I believe that they have demonstrated compliance with the performance standards for riverfront area, and as Rick mentioned, are well below the 10% threshold for riverfront area alteration.
Okay. Commission, anybody have comments, questions? Anybody in the audience? Okay, then we'll proceed. If there's no other questions or comments, then I'll accept a motion to close the hearing.
Adam Zucker, so moved.
Is there a second?
Maggie Crowe, second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. I'll accept a motion to issue an order of compliance. Caitlin recommends the special conditions are: 1, permanent no disturb markers like concrete blocks, stone pillars, or boulders, and placards be installed along the western limit of work area at a minimum of 25-foot intervals to prevent further encroachment into the riverfront area. I take it, Rick, that she went over this with you?
I actually did not have a chance
Oh, okay.
to go over that. So just to clarify, that would be along the western edge of the horse paddock area. Is it area 1?
Okay.
Yeah, that was area 1.
And that would be either some type of concrete bound or boulders? Is that what I heard?
Yes, some type of, some type of suitable markers, whether it be concrete blocks, fencing, whatever the property owner would like to do.
Okay, yeah, I mean, they have installed some fencing, so yeah, we can certainly, I think, work that out with you in the field if obviously that'll be a condition of the permit, so certainly we can address that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as soon as, the property owner decides on what they want to do, I can approve that as to whether or not it would be suitable.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I guess with that, I'll accept the motion to issue an order of conditions. And the conditions will be to put a permanent no disturb markers, like we just talked about, the fencing or boulders or cement blocks along with placards along the western limit of work. So if somebody would make that motion.
Maggie Crowe, so moved.
Is there a second?
Valstone, I second.
Any further discussion? Audience? Commission? Okay. Yes.
Just one thing. So at this point, it seems that all of the conditions of the enforcement order have been met. Those conditions were to file a notice of intent to ensure that the project complied with the Wetlands Protection Act and the town bylaws. If the commission is inclined, they may consider rescinding that enforcement order.
Okay. Do that after we vote on the order of conditions?
No, that's separate from the order of conditions.
Right, but we can do that afterwards. Or do we have to do it ahead of time?
We just did the order of conditions.
Yeah, but we didn't all vote. I think he didn't,
Gotcha.
Yeah,
we didn't say aye.
yeah, we
Oh.
didn't say aye.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, no. So
But I
once
think
we
that's
vote
what
on
it is.
this, then we can rescind the enforcement order.
Yes.
Motion to release, yeah, the enforcement
Yeah.
order.
Okay, let's move on the motion to issue the order of conditions. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the order of conditions have passed. Now, accept a motion to rescind the enforcement order on the property.
Valstone, so moved.
Adam Zucker, second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's passed and rescinded. Okay, Rick, you're good to go.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commission members, Caitlin, thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, 7.
Have a good flight.
Safe travels.
Yeah.
I know, safe travels.
Getting your daughter back. 7 Diamond Street. Is there anybody here regard? Okay. It's a notice of intent. I will accept a motion to open a public hearing for 7 Diamond Street.
Peggy Crow, so moved.
Is there a second?
Valstone, I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are now open for 7 Diamond Street.
Evening, everybody. Russ Waldron here for 7 Diamond Street. So this is a Title V septic upgrade, repair. Waiting for the plan. The new system is going exactly where the existing system is, behind the house. The area is currently utilized as a vegetable garden. Once the new system is in place, it'll be restored as lawn or maybe a vegetable garden. The existing tank is going to remain a separate pump chamber. Tank was going to go in as part of the system. It's located in the 100 to 200 foot riverfront area. That's 2,990 square feet of temporary disturbance. And the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone disturbance is the same. And I flagged the wetlands back in, God, I can't even remember now, October, September maybe. I can't remember when I flagged them. May.
2000,
I'm getting older by the day. But so that's it. That's the gist of the project.
Okay. Caitlin?
So I went out to the site on November 29th, and I reviewed the flagged wetland boundaries and the bordering vegetated wetlands flags WA1 through WA30. I found those flags to be accurate. I also reviewed bank flags B7 through B11, and I found those to be accurate as well, and accurately shown on the plan. As Russ stated, this is a pretty simple project. I believe at this time the commission has all the information they need to issue an order of conditions.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? The board? Okay, then I will accept a order, or a motion for order of conditions for the project. Straight, with no special conditions associated with it.
Adam Zucker moves to approve the order of conditions for 7 Diamond in Norfolk.
Is there a second?
Maggie Crow, second.
Oh, okay, I need to close the hearing first, all right?
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll hold on to that motion. Except, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
Valstone, I make a motion to close the hearing on 7 Diamond Street.
Is there a second?
Regan Milani?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Now, we'll accept that motion to issue an order of conditions for 7 Diamond Street. You-
Are we redoing it?
what?
Are those the revised plans?
It says the paper copy. He has not stamped the revised, with a pump chamber on it.
Oh, okay.
But it should be done this week. I'll bring them to you.
Okay.
All right.
Should we return?
Oh, thank you. Oh, so we have to vote on it. Right.
Oh, so I'm gonna, Maggie Crow, I make a motion to issue the order of conditions for 7 Diamond Street with no special conditions.
Thank you. Second?
Zucker, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay, 43 Mirror Lake. Is there anybody here from Mirror Lake? And your name, please identify yourself and address.
Tom Souza, 43 Mirror Lake Ave, Norfolk. I'm presenting today a request for determination on our property to remove a tree that is currently causing disruption and harm to my foundation.
Okay. Before we go further, let me go ahead and open this to a public hearing officially. So then we can discuss and take action on it. And do it, I think, fast for us all. So if somebody would accept, make a motion to open a public hearing for 43 Mirror Lake.
Valstone, I motion to open a public hearing on 43 Mirror Lake.
For request for determination. Is there a second? Maggie.
Maggie Crow, second. I'm always waiting to see if Regan's gonna go.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, back to you.
Thank you. Tom Souza again,
Tom.
43 Mirror Lake Ave. Also co-chair of the Friends of Mirror Lake Committee, so
Oh, okay.
I'm very tightly aligned as well as my...
And your wife.
My wife's...
You're tied to your wife?
She's
Tethered?
Well, yeah. She's also on the board for Friends of Mirror Lake as well. So we're acutely aware of the conservation issues and needs for the lake, and we'll be talking to you more and more as we become further integrated now that Norfolk's part of our overall plan, right, along with Rentham. So we purchased this house in June, and we plan on developing it and enhancing the property. But before we can do anything, we have this tree situation that is undermining the existing foundation of the house. So we're looking for approval to remove the tree so that we can, better the property going forward, in our plans to build a nicer and more updated house on the property. You have probably already seen 2 letters from 2 different contractors who've come out and looked at the foundation, have determined that there is damage caused by this tree. And looking at the whole plan on the Watershed Act, the tree is 100 years plus old, the house is 100 plus years old. So the they have copies, honey. So there's,
Pass that.
Yep.
Yes, give it to Ray.
Copies each.
so
Just wants to be
there,
included.
it comes down to the chicken and the egg situation
Yeah.
as to which was there first, but the tree is definitely causing us problems, and sadly, we need to remove it because we love the tree.
Here.
So that's our situation that we're currently in. Caitlin came out and looked at the property and has seen and taken pictures herself of the damage it's causing to said property.
And I understand the contractors, they'll bring a crane in to remove the tree,
Yes.
and they're planning to take out the stump.
So we plan on, our initial thoughts were to take the tree down so it doesn't cause any problems with it going forward on the house itself. And then when we develop the property, then we'll take the stump out as part of the site work.
Oh, okay.
And then backfill it as required or needed by the town.
Okay, let me just catch up on some notes.
That root ball is going to be huge.
So the current plan, so based on this letter from LDS, they stated, well, they recommended removing the root system to fully evaluate the extent of damage.
Right.
So are you saying that that is something not included in this application?
Right now, we just want approval to move forward with the ability to take the tree down. And then when we go to do the site work, when we rebuild the property, that's when we'll take the stump out at that time. We don't want to do it in two phases, because if we take the stump out now, and depending on what we're going to do going forward, we could ruin the house right now as it is. If we leave it in place, just take the tree down so we don't have any limb issues or falling, any damage from the existing structure above ground. Want to remove that and then worry about the root ball when we go to better the property.
Okay,
If
and
we take that root ball out now, the foundation is going to be completely ripped apart, and the house would be uninhabitable.
yeah, it sounds based on this, or both of the assessments that you received, that the root system has done some significant damage. And also from the letter from LDS, they do have erosion control plan that will be put in place when the tree is removed.
And what would that be? Would the 18?
We haven't gotten a detailed plan as of yet.
Oh, okay.
Although if the root, or if the roots are being left in place, there isn't as much of
Right,
an
the erosion
issue.
control would have to come in place when we take
Erosion.
that out and do the
Exact-
foundation
yeah.
work itself.
It's not the first part,
Right,
first phase.
correct.
Right.
So you're cutting but not stumping.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be, again, that stump ball is going to be,
Huge.
oh my, 3-4 cars in size. It's amazing what the size of, as Caitlin can attest to, the groundswell that it's caused on the property itself.
Is anything going to be salvageable?
Of the
Any
tree?
foundation?
Tree.
You need some firewood?
Yes, I mean, the front half of the house, probably 70% of the foundation is salvageable. Again, we'll be coming back to the town when we start looking at building up the property. And our goal is to, again, better it. We don't know, talking to the building inspector yet, because we have to wait to figure out the tree before we can start putting plans in front of the building inspector, because that's 3 deeded lots, and the house is currently located on one of the lots, which is closest to the neighbor, which is 3.5 feet from the property line.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so we're looking to better it and potentially
Center it.
center it
Yeah.
into 3 lots, and that'll give, better ease, privacy to our neighbors there, across the street to Alex of the old Concom. He lives across the street, so he'll have a water view, and it'll be, it'll look better overall in the way juxtaposing it in the center of the property itself.
Sure, sure.
More to come.
Yeah. There's always,
big tree.
There's always many phases to projects like this.
Yes. We went through a similar project. We currently have a house in Rentham on the lake, and went through the same process 5 years ago. And so well-versed on the process and looking for your direction and help as to make sure that we do this correctly.
That is a huge tree.
It's a huge tree.
It's too bad that you do have to bring it down,
It's
but
just awesome. And there's it's almost like a 35-foot straight run of wood. So hopefully when we fell it, we can probably, utilize that wood and sell it so it can be repurposed.
Yeah.
I mean, when I could stand there and put my hands around it, it doesn't even go halfway around the tree. It's huge.
I'm sad for the tree.
what's that?
I'm sad for the tree.
Me too. It
Will you
really is.
provide us with the slice and we'll count the history of,
the wrong spot.
Yeah.
history of Norfolk?
Yeah, it is. It's got it. Again, it's interesting. The house property has been there since early 1900s. The first deed on it is 1927, but that was because it was part of a camp before. So it's like the tree or the house, which was there before. It's really
Probably the tree.
It seemed
What's
A little
Not
sapling or
big, I
something.
would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Are there more pictures of it currently?
They're all there. Yeah. So there's so much coverage over the top of the house.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have a problem.
I think it's inevitable.
Sad.
unless you guys want to build like a really cool treehouse kind of thing. I mean,
Right.
insurance-wise, maybe a nightmare. However, the potential
live in it.
cool factor
Yeah.
would really, really go
Oh,
up.
the slide into the water.
You get like a Penelope and Troy thing, the tree with the house.
Like Cool Mom Award 2023.
Yeah, that's right.
I would like to be adopted if you build a treehouse in that. So.
Kick-ass ladder that goes all the way up.
Yeah.
I think
Or an
we
elevator,
plan.
a rope,
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
hook it up to a donkey or something.
Robinson Crusoe, here we come.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. So I will accept a motion to, what do we want to do here?
Close the
Close the public hearing.
Yeah, let's close the public hearing.
Adam Zucker moves to close the public hearing on the removal of a tree at Mirror Lake.
43 Mirror Lake, is there a second?
43 Mirror Lake.
Regan Milani, second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then I'll accept a motion to issue a -3 determination. With what conditions are you asking for?
So the potential conditions were related to erosion control, but since the root system is staying in place for now, they aren't
Okay,
really applicable anymore.
it's still a -3 determination?
Yes,
Okay,
work in the buffer zone.
very good. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Wait.
Oh,
Wait, we gotta make a motion.
oh, I thought we made it.
Back it up, back it up, back it up.
Come on,
We closed the hearing.
you're slipping.
Tell you
Come on,
about- I'm
Maggie.
telling you about the cheat sheets.
Is there a football game on tonight you're trying to get to?
Okay, so Maggie Crow, I make a motion to issue a -3 determination for 43 Mirror Lake.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Also, a second.
You got it.
Got it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you very much.
Good.
You guys.
No tree hugging, Maggie.
I would like to come have a memorial for the tree.
Oh, please.
Afterwards, don't tell her when you're cutting it down, just afterwards.
Just
If
document.
you come next week, bring your umbrella because the acorns are coming down.
Okay.
There isn't any acorn
No.
because of the drought. There's no acorns this year.
You're right. We didn't get hit by a lot of them. Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
You keep a
also sad.
memento though, like
The
a
leaves.
Absolutely.
limb or something. You know,
Make
do
a cool
something.
stump chair. You're gonna have a lot of
I
it.
gave you a piece.
I'm coming over.
Got it.
I'd like a piece of this tree. Anyway,
Oh, boy.
It sounds like a threat.
I know that did. That came off much more threatening than I meant it to. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
not
very
so
friendly.
tough. That tree's not so tough.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Looking forward to
welcome.
working with you going forward on this.
Thank you. 2 Clark Street, request for certificate of compliance. And this is the dam at the prison that Andrew came last month, I think it was, or the month before.
2 months.
And I'm surprised he's not here, but that's okay. I think we have enough information. Is there anybody on Zoom that's representing the prison, Department of Corrections? Okay, so we'll just continue on. So after the fact filing was done, after the emergency dam repair, and we saw what work he had done on it, and it seemed to be a very good job and prevented a washout of that part of Norfolk and southern Walpole. So with that and with Caitlin's review of everything and visits, we should be good to go to approve a order of conditions for this property.
And if you,
Go ahead.
any of the members would like, there are pictures of the dam structure, if anyone would like to view them.
Are they different than what we saw before?
Yes, they're from my site visit in October.
Okay, why don't you go do a
Post them to the
drive?
drive?
They're in the drive.
I think I was on.
Is there anyone that you want to put up now, or in particular?
Did I pass it?
Taking a minute to load.
Nope.
Yeah, you were in the drive. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I only saw this one, like the map. I didn't see the pictures.
They're in the drive. Photos, 10/18/22, right?
Maybe I'm not using this whole drive thing correctly.
I don't know how to.
No, like
I
all
don't know how to use it either.
no, all like the folders are there, and then you should be able to open the folder, and
What?
everything's
I have it right
there.
here in the drive.
Yeah, well, I was on drive a minute ago and it didn't show me any of that, but I'm not the most digitally savvy person in the
So
room.
this photo is, I believe that would be the northern side of Industries Dam Drive. Shows the existing conditions there. And then this is the other side here. Yep. And then this is the other side. The site was in stable condition, and everything was observed to be constructed according to the plan. I didn't not see any issues there.
There's some scenic photos in here.
It is a very
really
nice
pretty.
property out there.
Yeah. Are those blocks just put on top of each other? They're not secured by anything mechanically or chemically?
I am not sure about that.
If you didn't highlight it, I would assume that they're just put on top of each other.
I believe they are, just stacking.
Yeah, that's
With
what
blocks
they
that
normally
large,
do.
the
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not going to go anyplace.
No.
Well, they fill them with the rocks and then
Right.
Yeah,
holds them in. And they have little grooves so that they rest on each other.
Yeah.
yeah.
Interlocking.
Interlocking, yes, that's the word I was looking for.
What was that?
Interlocking.
Interlocking. Yes. Okay, so I'll accept a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 2 Clark Street.
Regan Milani makes a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for 2 Clark Street, DEP 240650.
Thank you. And would there be a second?
Maggie Crowe, second.
Is there any further discussion?
Oh, they're there.
Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. You can
They
give them the
put them
CFC.
up there after I checked.
Okay. Looking for a certificate of compliance. Caitlin, this is the solar project?
Yes, this is the solar project, actually located just up the road from here. So the approved project involved the construction of ground-mounted solar array and associated site improvements, including installation of stormwater BMPs, a gravel access drive, fencing, and grading. The final order of conditions was issued April 8th, 2020. I conducted a site inspection on November 15th to confirm existing conditions. I found that the site was currently improved by a ground-mounted solar array and associated site features as shown on the approved plan of record, and that the site was in stable condition.
Is there still an open trench
An open trench,
from the solar farm to the road? It's to the left of the gravel driveway.
I did not note one.
Okay, you would have
I was
noticed
there.
it. I mean, they had to use a backhoe to do it. So I think it was just to lay the cables into the electrical system.
Right. I do remember there being personnel on site. I can't remember if it was before or
Okay.
after.
Okay. Oh, good. That's taken a while for them to complete that project. Any other discussion on it? Yeah, you should take a walk up there.
And so,
I have.
no as-built was required under the order of conditions. However, one was required by the planning board, and that was submitted and added to the shared drive if anyone wants to view that.
Anything special in it, or?
There was a minor change just involving the planning board required planting of trees to act as screening, and the location of those trees was changed from outside of the fence to just inside of the fence. That area is located on the opposite side of the site from the wetlands. So I don't believe that the change of location has any bearing on the order of conditions.
Okay, good. So we've made the motion, right? Elaine?
This one?
No? Yeah.
No. 41 meeting?
Yeah, okay.
House? Not yet.
Then I'll accept a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance. I apologize, I've got some issues in my head.
That's why we're here.
Thank you.
Adams Liquor moves for issuing a full order of compliance on 41 Meeting House Hill photovoltaic project.
Is there a second?
Maggie Crowe, second.
Any further discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Okay, that takes us to 15 Lincoln Road, the big solar farm. And they've requested the certificate of compliance. I guess, Caitlin, we've all been out there, we did the site visit. We had given them orders of conditions that they should be meeting. So Caitlin, why don't you take it from there?
Sure. So, request for COC was filed for the project, and I conducted several inspections related to the request for COC on November 8th, November 29th, and December 1st. My observations over the three separate site visits, I observed that there were large portions of the site that had little to no vegetative cover. There were areas where jute netting was installed to to prevent erosion, and also series of check dams were installed in a couple locations where it was known that there were large stormwater flows. And I do believe that the jute netting and check dams will prevent erosion and sedimentation, particularly over the winter, until the site can be fully stabilized. But in terms of the order of conditions, I don't believe the commission can make a determination that the site is stable. And that also ties into the stormwater regulations. I reviewed the stormwater report submitted with the notice of intent, and the stormwater management design included the assumption that the site would have 75% vegetative ground cover at a minimum in order to meet the Mass DEP stormwater regulations. Since there are portions of the site that fall well below that 75%, at this time, it doesn't appear the commission can confirm that the project currently meets the stormwater regulations. Another thing to note is the area of sedimentation into the riverfront area and buffer zone, in my opinion, was not addressed according to the plan that I outlined at the May meeting, and that the commission determined required and approved after viewing the site on May 17th.
Okay. Who from Next Grid or the owner wants to speak?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joe Dorfler. I'm from the law offices of Rich May. I'm appearing here on behalf of Next Grid, and with me we have Nathan Collins. He's the senior manager of engineering from Next Grid, and we also have Paul Mancuso, who's a wetland wetland scientist from the BSC group. And I would turn it over to Paul to give an outline.
Okay, Paul?
Yep. Hey, this is Paul Mancuso from BSC Group. So I went out to the site yesterday. I went out there to meet Nathan, and we went over the area of sedimentation at the northern corner of the site, at the bottom of the slope. And I definitely agree that area currently is not stable. I was not part of the main meeting, but it's my impression from speaking with Nathan that some sediment migrated down from the site down the slope over a silt fence in that area, and so they were asked to remove that sediment, put it back landward side of the silt fence, which I assume what they did was at the request of the commission, and they thought they were doing a little bit of a detriment because they dug down approximately 10 or 12 inches, and that exposed some roots of the existing shrubs in the area. So they thought they had removed the sediment that maybe had migrated off site once they had reached the roots, so they stopped what they were doing. And that area does need to be stabilized. I agree with that. But I'm unclear what needs to be done to stabilize that area, because we suggested installing jute netting and seeding the area at the beginning of next growing season, which I believe would stabilize the area. But I might be missing part of the story, but we're just looking to essentially stabilize the area. That's the one main area of concern. And I believe there is a plan to reseed the entire area at the beginning of next growing season, which will stabilize the overall site. Most of the site is vegetated with some grassy vegetation, but there are some areas that could definitely use some more, which I believe the seeding in the spring will accomplish. So I think Next Grid is looking for a solution for the unstable area. I believe it's in the northern corner of the site, so that we can close this out. So that I think that's where we're at.
Okay. Anybody else from Next Grid Group want to talk?
Yes, Mr. Chair. For the record, Nathan Collins, Senior Manager of Engineering for NextGrid.
Yes.
Just to kind of touch on a couple points, I think first and foremost, NextGrid, was fully aware of the issues that transpired last spring while we were, making efforts doing earthwork to clean up that site. I would like to put on record that, in our opinion, we acted efficiently. We first graded that site and added additional erosion control at the bottom of that slope. We then followed that up with the jute netting and the installation of overseeding. In our opinion, and I don't want to speak for Paul with BSC, but I believe they reiterated that letter as well that was submitted yesterday. That slope is stabilized. There are areas north of that slope where we have experienced some channelized flow. And as Caitlin noted, we added check dams to address that channelized flow for the remainder of the year. But when it comes to the comment of little to no vegetation, NextGrid has two separate letters from the town's technical peer review agency, Beta Group, both of which state that on two separate occasions and two separate letters that the vegetation was well established. So NextGrid was unaware of any issues associated with lack of vegetation. We've continued to make efforts to address the commission's concerns. And it's really just this latest effort that, quite frankly, we aren't comfortable with continuing. We submitted an email today with a letter that had pictures of tree saplings that we were digging below their existing root zone. So, from our perspective, the sediment that may be there, I think as noted in BSC's letters, is likely not any more than 2 inches. And it's also in close proximity to areas that we were approved to work in. So we have, again, our goal is to close this project out. We've worked, in my opinion, diligently with the commission. We've done a lot of work on that site to remedy, for those that may or may not be familiar with what that site looked like before we got involved, to remedy a pretty bad situation on property. We now have a kind of a clean bill of health from DEP on that site based on the efforts we made to clean that up. We also just, as it relates to, additional overseeding, Planning Board has given us a temporary certificate of occupancy. NextGrid has provided a $25,000 cash bond to come back and top dress and overseed those areas that are north of that slope. That's going to be conducted in April, and I believe that temporary COC is scheduled to be out as of June 1st, 2023, just to give it a month or so to kind of grow in, if you will. But again, as it relates to stormwater, it's been reviewed by, the as-built that we submitted was reviewed by Beta Group, the town's third-party review engineer. And they did not, I guess, reject the project as it relates to how that site was constructed for stormwater. And then I guess I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Do you have a copy of that letter, Caitlin?
The most recent letter from Beta, I believe I do have it in my emails. I'm not sure.
Are you in agreement with what's been said?
So from what I understand,
I just want to ask a couple questions when there's time.
Go ahead. If you let Caitlin, you finish, and then we
sure, I'll just expand on that. So from what I understand, the temporary occupancy permit was issued on the condition of performance bond was put in place to come back and loam and seed portions of the site that are unvegetated, specifically relating to the stormwater management design. And I'd also like to note that Beta's assessment and valuation of the project cost assumed an addition of 2 inches of topsoil. The order of conditions by this Conservation Commission specifically requires a minimum of 6 inches of topsoil. So that's
So we're stricter than the planning board.
correct.
So I think, and BSC was reviewing as a third-party reviewer for the planning board, not for the Conservation Commission.
That's Beta Group was the
Oh,
third
Beta
party
Group. Sorry, for
reviewer for
the planning board, not for the
BSC
Conservation
Group
Commission.
is representing NextGrid.
But, sorry, the third-party engineering review was for the planning board, not to
Oh,
review
yes, correct.
compliance with the Conservation Commission order of conditions.
No, just related to the planning board.
So that's why they're not in agreement. 2 inches versus the 6 inches.
Well, it's two different sets of standards.
Yeah,
So they weren't reviewing our permit and whether the applicant was in compliance with our standards. They were
Right.
reviewing it for the planning board. So there may be some overlap, but it's two separate boards with two separate objectives. And I would say that our requirement is permanent stabilization. We can't issue a full certificate of compliance until the site is fully stabilized. So we could issue a partial, which would be just for work outside of final stabilization, or I don't know if our bylaw, allows us to hold a bond, but similarly hold a bond for a quote for the work for final stabilization. As far as the routes, when we went out to that site with the violation, the limit of work is the limit of work. Doesn't matter if it's near. We're working near the limit of work. If you're over the limit of work, you're over the limit of work. So I think, that there was several inches, and it's a restoration. It doesn't matter that you're digging around the roots, then you got to replant trees if you wreck that area of the riverfront, if you're not supposed to touch it. It's a natural vegetated state that we're protecting, and if you aren't allowed to work in there, you're not allowed to work in there. So then we could order you to plant $100,000 worth of trees, so I don't think your excuse of, what you just said is sufficient. I think we required you to do some restoration and some remediation of the site, and that's what you need to do.
Nathan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, my comment regarding the limit of work in the question is that the final approved plans by the planning board, we're within our limit of work line.
Okay, but is that for you're at a meeting of the Conservation Commission, so I'm wondering if you were within the limit of work for the Conservation Commission?
It's half and half.
There was a discrepancy. The plan of record for the Conservation Commission has a different limit of work than the plan of record for the planning board.
Ours is much stricter.
It's not that different. It's maybe 5 or so feet.
Okay.
But it includes a good amount of sediment that was deposited at the silt fence.
Well, the planning board has no jurisdiction over riverfront. That's our jurisdiction. So it would make sense. They wouldn't care if you were working on riverfront. We do, because we're meeting a certain set of standards and we're protecting that area, which is a resource area. So I think those are the options. We could potentially consider issuing a partial certificate of compliance, but if the ground isn't stabilized, then you can't issue a full certificate of compliance. The work isn't completed. Or we could deny and
Continue it.
write a letter as to why it was denied and give the applicant time to come into compliance so that they can be issued a certificate of compliance.
So if they're working towards reseeding in the spring, wouldn't that be partial? Like if they're working towards that?
Yeah, I would say, it would be for the work, like the installation of the solar panels and the fencing and all the work outside of the landscaping that needs to be finalized.
So, yeah, partial.
It would be partial for all work outside of final stabilization of the soil.
And that would have to be done in the spring.
Yep.
So it just sounds like it's a little too early. If you're seeding in the spring, well, we probably would be more than willing to issue an order of conditions given compliance in June or July, right?
Yeah.
So it's just not the right time.
If I may add, again, in NextGrid's opinion and the opinion of our engineer, the site is stabilized as it relates to stormwater pollution prevention. There's areas that need to be overseeded, not seeded. So there's no bare land. And as it relates to the depth of the topsoil, it's to top dress. There's no areas on the site that are bare of topsoil. I just kind of want to get that on the record. 'Cause
I would disagree with that. I've been out to the site numerous times, and there are definitely many portions of the site that did not receive any soil amendments.
And I think that it gets down to with the DEP regulations, it's supposed to be at least 75% ground cover with vegetation for us to proceed, and it's not there yet, according to Caitlin. And we have to go by Caitlin's advice and input to the commission. And I would go along with issuing a partial at this time, and then let's finish it up, have you finish it up in the spring. And then we can give you the full certificate of compliance, by mid-year.
If I could just...
Yeah.
I have one
Wait, who wants to talk first, Paul? Go ahead, Paul.
Sure. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize if I cut someone off. So the area at the bottom of the slope to the north of the site, in order to stabilize that, would it be appropriate to just install jute netting and seed as they did for the rest of the site, or is there something else that needs to be done down there? We just want to make sure that we know what needs to be done, because I think that's one of the areas of concern. We just want to do it right. But it seems to me the jute netting and the seeding worked fairly well on the top portion of that slope. Obviously, we had a bit of a drought summer, so it could have gone better with more rain. But if there is vegetation going along the entire slope, I just want to make sure we know how to properly stabilize that slope. So if we can come back next time, we've done it the proper way. So would that be appropriate to seed and install the jute netting in that area as was done on the rest of the slope?
Well, isn't jute netting a temporary until the grass or whatever vegetation is grown in?
Yep.
Okay, so you could propose that as through the winter until the grass is seeded, grows in.
Right, yeah. I just want to make sure that is appropriate.
I would suggest if it hasn't been drafted already, what is required, that either the applicant draft what they propose and we approve it, or you just go with whatever was already, required.
So
Yeah.
That makes sense.
that
I
letter
don't want
was
to
some,
come up with something.
At this point, seeding isn't really a viable option
Without topsoil?
going into the
winter.
without soil
Oh, right.
amendments, but also due to the time of year, jute netting may be appropriate. Maybe other textile fabric ground covers. I think, as Regan was saying, the best course of action would be to come up with a plan to present to the commission for approval as to what needs to be done to stabilize that area over the winter until it can be seeded in the spring.
Right, and I believe that Paul's letter did outline that. That was submitted with the option of doing that immediate jute support and then putting in that seating immediately when the spring comes around. That was the recommendation that was submitted to the commission.
Okay, so you could forward that email to us. We can take a look at it, and if anyone has any questions, call you. So we could review that, and, because I didn't get a copy of it.
When was that sent?
It was sent after work hours last night, so I received it this morning.
Gotcha.
And then it has since been uploaded to the share drive.
Okay.
But I can also email it out.
Yeah.
We might have to come up with a policy for open meeting law or something that we can't accept new information within 7 days of a
Well, it's
of a
supposed to
hearing,
be
'cause it's-
2 weeks, I think was our guidelines.
that you can't
That's
submit new
for-
information in 2 weeks.
For applications, currently we don't have deadlines for supplemental information.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, good point. Well,
Well,
take
I don't
it
think
under
it's
administrative.
reasonable, if we're the decision-making body, we're the ones who decide, we have to have the opportunity to review any materials that are submitted. And there's
Exactly.
no way, as a working mother, I'm going to review it the same day it's submitted, so. So it needs
Supermom.
some time to review it and to kind of really take a look at it if it's
Yeah.
not ready to go. It doesn't sound like it's ready to go. There's questions and it needs to be reviewed.
I think we can, based on the conversation that we've had here, that we could issue that partial and then look at it in January when we have all the information and see if we want to continue it as a partial until the spring, correct? Until everything grows.
If you are considering issuing a partial for, say, the solar array itself, but not, the final landscaping, loaming, seeding, removal of sediment, and potentially the stormwater BMPs, that could potentially be decided tonight. And
What's wrong with the BMPs?
so there's about a third of the site was designed to flow into a riprap trench that flows down the northern portion of the site. And that area specifically was the area I was talking about that was designed with the assumption that there would be at least 75% vegetative cover in order to meet the stormwater standards. I'd have to review exactly what standard, but it would probably impact things like water quality, potentially recharge, flow rate, and volume.
Chairman, if I may?
Yes, Nathan.
I apologize. I'm not trying to cut anyone off, but the swale on the northeast side was designed and installed simply for potential erosion protection. That plan amendment was approved by the planning board on Monday night. It is not a stormwater BMP. It was a riprap swale that was suggested, it added for erosion. All stormwater BMPs are within our fenced property, and the planning board signed off on our as-built on Monday night. There were no conditions associated with stormwater. The only conditions were approval from your commission, COC, and the inclusion of the $25,000 cash bond to overseed in the spring. So I just want to get that on record,
Yep.
that the stormwater system has been approved as installed and per the design.
So that area has no effect on rate and volume coming off the site, pre versus post?
It does not.
Well, maybe we'll get a copy of whatever the planning board decided to make our own decision. I would suggest.
Yeah. I think we need a little bit more information, and we haven't seen the planning board decisions and comments. And I think, yeah, it should be appropriate so that there's no conflict, that we as a town are giving NextGrid a straight answer and there's no confusion. So I'd like to continue this until January, and that'll give us enough time to get all the documentation, read it, and come back with a good solution for you, hopefully. An agreeable solution.
That's all we're looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Joe?
Sorry, I did have one question with continuing in January regarding the installing the jute netting immediately. Is
Yes.
that something?
They can do that, can't?
There's two areas that are in question here. There's an area that's north of the slope that's on our property that, again, in our opinion, is stabilized. Those check dams were installed. There's no sediment leaving our site or entering the wetland. The second issue is the area at the bottom of the wetland. We've been directed to remove the sediment to a depth of almost 12 inches. In our opinion, and in the opinion of our professional wetland scientist, there's not 12 inches of sediment that were caused by us, as it shows in the adjacent root material. So that's the area that we're looking to stabilize immediately, and we need direction. ESD submitted two options. One, to fill that area back in so it has similar grade to the area around it, and put jute netting on it. The second option is to leave the depression and put jute netting on it and install jute netting on the new disturbed soil that we put on the other side of the silt fence, if that makes sense. So we would like direction on that, just so we can get that area stabilized.
For the winter, yeah.
Correct.
What would your recommendation be, or?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't leave the root systems exposed and expect the plants to survive over the winter. I'm not sure why.
It was mostly non-native invasives when we were out there.
Yeah, it was. It was all
A lot
like
of buckthorn.
It was,
Yeah.
Knotweed? Was there knotweed out there?
I don't remember
we didn't see
knotweed. I just
knotweed.
remember
It was just
that
buckthorn.
Val noticed the buckthorn.
There was knotweed that was starting to grow in the sediment that had overtopped the erosion controls. I believe there's photos from an on-site on May 5th that show knotweed that at about 4 or 5 inches, which can grow that in just a matter of days, which tells me that it likely was deposited there via the sediment. There was no other knotweed in that area.
I feel like and I'd have to refresh, they were supposed to dig out the sediment and then put like a native seed mix down to restore the area. But now, you're talking about jute mesh, but are you talking about is that what we required, the native seed mix too?
But they're not going to put the
look.
seed mix down now.
No, but I thought that's what we required
We did.
in May. And now it's December. It's a long time to not have done this. We should have had it done by June, not by December, talking about it in December.
That seed mix was installed and that slope is stabilized. This is an area outside of our silt fence area. And on several different occasions, we hand removed sediment. And we thought we did it properly, as we have an email from the agent dated November 14th that says our crews have done a great job and there was just one area she was still concerned with. That's the area that we're discussing now.
Yeah, so I sent that email after my first inspection on November 8th. And due to all the leaf fall, it appeared that especially the sediment in this area had been removed. Unfortunately, since it has been so long, a lot of that sediment has settled. Leaves have fallen over it, and it's very difficult to determine how much, if any, of that has been removed. When I went back on the 29th, following an email from NextGrid stating that additional material had been removed, it had rained in the meantime, washed some of that leaf litter away, and had exposed areas where I did note that sediment that you're seeing in this picture now, which tells me that it wasn't fully removed from that area. And this area is the closest to the wetlands. I believe when we were out there on May 17th, we determined it was about 40 feet away from the edge of wetlands, although that was an estimate since the wetland flags were never reestablished before work commenced.
So just going back real quick, so I think we were all working towards the same thing, right? I mean, looking at January for another review, when you have the chance to go over, the different options and what the planning board did, and so I'm just looking at what NextGrid should be doing between now and January, right? And it sounds to me like the two options are putting in that jute netting or filling in a little bit with the extra sediment and then putting in that jute netting, right? Putting that extra sediment to cover up those exposed roots. So is that, and it sounds like the commission might be leaning towards that second option there to do that in the immediacy.
Put some topsoil on and jute netting.
Right, to put that on with the jute netting, reseeding in the spring, of course, but then in January coming back and doing that review for the partial pending that reseeding in the spring. Is that what we're looking at?
Honestly, I don't know if I see a point in putting in soil amendments at this time. I think stabilizing it ahead of the winter is the top priority, and then coming up with a plan to fully assess that area in the spring.
And at that time, bring in topsoil if it's required and then seed it.
Right. Potentially manage invasives if they are present, things like that. I think the commission needs a concrete plan in place to be able to determine whether, the work will satisfy the order of conditions. I know there's a plan in place for the planning board, but again, as Regan stated, this is, the Conservation Commission, not the planning board. Two separate boards with two separate tasks and goals and orders.
Right.
So they'd be okay to go ahead and put the jute netting down now to protect it during the winter time. And then come up with the plan and bring it to the board so we can look at it, discuss it, and have an approval in place so in the spring they can take action.
Right.
Does that sound good?
Are we filling the hole that we dug or leaving it as is?
I would definitely cover any exposed root systems.
So I guess that means filling the hole?
Or like fabric.
I mean, I don't,
Where's the hole? I don't understand.
so when I was out there, there was sediment that had been removed. I don't know if I would call it a hole, so I don't know exactly how deep,
Is that outside?
how much was removed. This is right on to the north of the limit of work silt fence barrier,
Outside of the barrier, or inside?
outside of the limit of work.
I feel like in
Here, if you'd like
preparation
to-
of January, I would like to read the third-party peer review engineer and the planning board items.
Yeah.
I'd like to review whatever was submitted by the applicant as far as a plan for next steps, and possibly do a site visit to, to see what it looks like.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And then in January, we'll be better poised to say, yes, please fill in this hole and put some jute netting on and do that. And then, in the meantime, if a partial is something that the applicant would be, interested in receiving before finalization, if we decide that it's not stable, in our opinion,
We can do that in January. Give them a partial.
yes. And then if that's something that they're seeking, then we would have confirmation of that and be ready to issue either a partial or a full, hopefully in January, and not a denial letter.
So if you could, come up with and provide us a plan of how you want to take care of everything before the end of the year, so then we have it for the January meeting. But we'll plan a visit out there now before it snows and rain. We'll have to figure it out. When's a good time to go out there? But we'll try to do it in the next probably few days or week. Because it's supposed to rain and snow, I think, by the weekend, a little bit. But,
The commission should have that proposed plan.
okay.
Yeah, that's the plan that was submitted yesterday, right?
That was the one
Yeah.
presented yesterday, okay.
Right.
Correct, sir.
Although
Okay.
that is just a plan for short-term, immediate actions, not
Long-term.
long-term.
Okay,
Okay.
Not so sure. I know that they were talking about, and Paul could probably speak about it a little bit more, but I know it does go into seeding in the spring.
Right.
Yeah, well, I guess the long-term should be whatever was on the approved site plan, whatever final means of stabilization is on the final, where short-term would be because of the season, you can't put that in.
Now in January. I'm still unclear on what we want them to do between now and January.
well, I guess we have to.
Nothing.
We have to review some
We have
stuff to be able
review
to
the
tell them what
paperwork.
we're comfortable
Yeah.
with.
So if there's a hole and roots are exposed, we're leaving it till January?
Or can they put on
Or
the jet netting now?
Well, or is it that we're gonna try to do a site visit in the next 3 days and we can,
Yeah, and then
Send them
Caitlin could
a-
communicate with them. That's
That's
something that we're
well,
comfortable
I think
with.
they've asked what they should do in the meantime, right? So is that what the plan would be for the immediate
what, let
before
us-
January future?
Let us take a site visit in the next couple of days.
Do you have something?
And we'll
Maggie, that
send
They would do?
you an action letter.
I don't know. I don't know
of
what
what
that
the next
So we
steps
need more
could be.
information
Yeah.
to be able to tell them.
Okay?
Yeah.
Instead of us arbitrarily coming up with something, I think the commission wants to be comfortable and take a look at the site and understand it a little bit, where it is today. And then with Caitlin's input and the input you've given us tonight, we'll be able to make a decision and go forward with that. And we can send something out to you and before, this week or early next week, and how to progress
Until January.
until January.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay? I think be a good compromise at this point. All right, well, thanks again, gentlemen, for being part of this. And, yeah, we want to see the project get completed and up and running for you, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome. So we'll, I'll just accept a motion to continue this to January meeting. And the January meeting date is?
January 4th.
The what?
January 4th.
The 4th? Wow. Okay.
Adam Zucker, so moved.
Maggie Crowe, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Okay, we'll be in touch. Thank you.
I think they may already.
They're gone.
Didn't take long.
All right. Have a nice day.
Okay, so now we're at
The minutes.
the minutes.
Thank you again, Maggie, for correcting all our grammatical.
One of these times I'll get it to you like more than 36 hours.
36 hours.
I'm on the last minute.
36
updating.
hours, this is an eternity.
It was faster than their submission, I think.
Now, how come you're doing that and not our clerk?
I'm the clerk.
Oh, I thought Jim was.
He's the vice chair now, right?
Oh, so everybody gets promotion.
That's why I'm up here. Come on.
I'm going to give you the
I was
respect.
clearly the personality hires. I'm fun.
Yeah, it was a brief one last.
Yeah.
And it still took me a minute. I need
Okay.
to set up notification. Anyways, go ahead. The minutes.
Any questions or comments regarding the minutes of November 2nd?
What minutes?
Seconds? If not, I'll accept a motion to accept those. So moved. Is there a second?
Adam Zucker, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, they pass. The abutter notification from Walpole on Lincoln Road. Lincoln Road. How big of a subdivision is that? Do we know?
It's roughly the size of 15 Lincoln Road, so about 5 acres. I don't recall the number of units.
It's 5 or 4 or 5 probably.
More than that, it wasn't a traditional subdivision.
Oh, really?
Like maybe townhouses connected or something?
Yeah.
Did you get a copy of the site plans?
I did not. They are available on the Walpole Concom website.
Oh, they're on the website?
On
Yes.
the Walpole one, huh?
So the actual work distance from the work to the parcel owned by the town is almost 300 feet. Walpole has a 300-foot abutter notification requirement. So the work is
So their property doesn't touch our property.
correct.
It's not.
It's
so
not a
directly abutting?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think I might have saved that plan to my desktop. I can send that
Yeah,
around.
if you would.
I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out, new to town, I was trying to figure out where it was and looking on GIS, and I couldn't figure it out, so.
Where Lincoln
I'd be
Road is?
interested. Yeah, or just where the parcel was that we owned and where they were proposing
yeah.
to do the work in Walpole.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be wonderful.
And that takes us to the Open Space Committee. Talking about this today with Caitlin, and we went through a lot of things, but yeah, this is our jurisdiction, and we're the only commission that can have a subcommittee in town.
Nice.
So we're privileged. So what I would suggest is that we form our own opinion of what the goal and duties and the 3 things that are on the minutes for approval or on the agenda. And let's discuss it in January and formally put the Open Space Committee in place in January with a full mission statement and suggestions of who should be part of it.
Yeah, so as David was saying, I just outlined some items that I thought the commission would want to discuss. My understanding of the town bylaws is that the select board will need to be notified of the name of the subcommittee as well as their business. So prior to that, I think it's important that the duties and responsibilities of this potential committee are defined, and even things such as how many members, the length of the term for members, whether or not staff or members from other town boards should be on the open space committee.
Along with the volunteers from the town.
Along with volunteers. From the resources that I've been reading through, it does seem like most towns have at least two, anywhere from 2 to 4, either staff or individuals from other boards to serve as members and liaisons on the committee. And so in this town, for example, someone from the CPC, the recreational committee, planning board, public work, or DPW, those are all parties that, would have valuable input into the goals of what an open space committee would do.
How about if I draft a letter and I'll pass it by you, and that we'll send internally within the town property, town hall and DPW, and informing the select board that going into, as 23 starts, we will form a open space committee as required, and we'll be putting everything in action, and we'll provide them the information as we put it together in the beginning about the mission statement and who the members will be, and also then the letter to all the departments will be basically an invitation to say this is going to be formed, who wants a place at the table, and see who jumps at it. I
like the idea of a subcommittee that would report back to us.
Yes.
And then we would make formal votes on those items that would be in our jurisdiction. I like the idea of involving other members of the community who might have a specific passion about open space. I do find, just like how we kind of struggled to find another person to go on the CPC, that once you're on one board, that serving on multiple boards is very challenging for working young, people to be engaged. So if we can get a new set of people to, because I would like to do but then going to more night meetings, and same with staff. I definitely having the agent and recreation department staff member as staff liaisons would be helpful, but I want to be cognizant that if we're asking somebody to go to multiple night meetings, what that means for their schedule.
Yeah. It'd be nice, I think, for somebody from this board to be on, along with Caitlin, but yeah, it's people's schedule, you're right.
Yeah, I think
we have like a rotating conservation committee representative sit?
We could.
And then that shares the burden of dual meetings.
If they're reporting to us anyway, do we really need to hash out the decisions and discussions that they're having? That's just me throwing that out there.
Second guessing them.
And how often would they meet? Like, would they be meeting once a month, or if it's subcommittee?
Seems like this is all the stuff we're trying to figure out.
That's what they'll decide.
I think once a month makes sense. Maybe opposite from when we meet, so it kind of gets evened out.
Different day.
So the
middle of
the
the
third
month.
Wednesday.
I think CPC meets then.
Yeah.
Well,
and
ZBA meets then.
ZBA meets then.
Okay. Well, we'll have,
We'll look at the calendar.
so is the plan to think on this until January, come up with how we think it should look,
Yeah.
decide in January, and then field it out to the internal town and get those opinions and people who would be interested, or?
Well, no, we can do that now,
Yeah, I was interested in
and again,
the
notifying the
input
select
that
board.
you have at this time. Based on any input you have, or, well, regardless, I was planning to expand on what I've outlined here for you guys to consider in January.
Okay.
But these are some of the basic things that, need to get fleshed out when this subcommittee gets created.
Yeah. I think, yeah, notifying the select board now and in advance, so they're not surprised of what's going on in town,
Right. And I
and notifying the other
want to make
departments.
sure my interpretation of the bylaw is correct, and that we just need to provide written notice. It seems pretty straightforward, but
And I guess going into this, one of the things we'll have to do is take the old open space report and make some copies for for the members. For the members of this new committee.
When they get together, their first thing can be to go through it and see what we've done and what we haven't done.
Right. Well, that's it, and that's why I think, so.
yeah.
Homework assignment number one.
And then
You might
report
just-
back to us
Here's your
what we
syllabus.
haven't done.
Franklin to that printer. Don't you use that printer in Franklin?
Yeah, I guess.
Let them make 10 copies or so.
Yeah, but that would definitely be a priority, considering the current open space plan expires, I think, summer 2024, which seems like it's far away, but, yeah, definitely.
Yes, because you can't get grant money from the state if you don't have an open space plan.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay. Sounds like a plan.
It's a great plan.
Anything else people want to discuss? No?
I think we've done enough.
Okay.
So I can send out an email to everyone tomorrow with some different times, and get a feel for when people may be able to meet at 15 Lincoln.
Excellent.
My time is limited. I have to do it before Friday.
This Friday?
Yeah.
So
Can you do it
tomorrow?
on Friday?
No.
So tomorrow.
Yeah, I could. In the morning, I could.
Or
Friday
Thursday.
morning.
Or Friday morning.
I could. I'm having an operation
So wait,
in the
today's Wednesday, yeah, so
afternoon.
tomorrow or Friday morning.
I can do it in the morning.
Did they have limits on when we can go, or is it just our schedules?
I
We can just,
have something scheduled from 10 to 11.
on when?
What?
When?
On Friday morning.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
And then at 3:45, but any other time in between
when are
then.
you guys available? Those at work.
I
Not from
would
home.
not do it tomorrow.
I'm not home until like non-relevant time tomorrow. I'm not
Yeah,
home
I
till,
have
like,
too
6
much
p.m.
already
tomorrow.
booked, and then I have parent-teacher conferences at
Ah.
night, tomorrow night, so I would.
Nice.
Well, we
wanna go over there
could,
at
if
9
you
in the
wanted,
morning.
we could go out there and
Yeah.
then I could go out with everyone else.
Okay.
Okay,
At
yeah.
a different time.
That's
Why don't we do that?
But keep it online too, because, if I can join you tomorrow or Friday, then I will.
Okay.
I don't know what the weather's supposed to be, but we'll talk about
Tomorrow
that.
is good.
Might be
I
good
think
to have
there's
two separate
some
anyways.
Sunny.
chance of rain at night, but the
Tomorrow
day
night?
looks good, so.
Okay. All right, after we close the meeting, we'll set up a time to go out there tomorrow.
Good.
Sounds good.
Okay, motion to close the meeting.
Adam Zucker moves to close the meeting.
Is there a second?
It's a long meeting tonight
Maggie Crow, second.
for us.
All in favor of closing December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes and we are closed.